The Senate Commerce Committee is getting ready to grill Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg later this morning regarding the state of the embattled 737 MAX fleet. Joining us right now is Senator Roger Wicker. He is the chairman of the Commerce Committee. He's going to be spearheading this hearing. And, sir, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
What is it that you'd like to hear from Mr. Muilenburg this morning?
Well, this is a tragedy that cost 346 human lives. We need to find out what went wrong. We know it was preventable, and I think what we're going to find out, it was there were mistakes at the corporate level, mistakes at the regulatory level, and there was human error involved. We want to make sure the planes are absolutely safe before they're back in the air. But if they are safe, the traveling public and our economy need these planes, and the tens and tens of thousands of workers who depend on this industry need to get back to work too. So where did we go wrong in the past? Is it fixed now? How do we avoid it in the future? Things of that nature.
Senator, I don't know if you've seen the Wall Street Journal this morning, but on the front page there is an article saying that the FAA had statistical analysis that showed a second crash was very likely to happen within a year of that first crash. They ultimately chose not to ground the fleet anyway. That second crash took place. They did that because they relied heavily on Boeing's initial flight simulator test results, where they were using very experienced pilots. Do you have faith in the FAA?
Well, I think that that article is absolutely correct, and the question needs to be asked, if you had this to do over again, what decisions would you make? And that's a question to be asked at the corporate level and at the FAA. At this point, we've learned a lot, and I have confidence in the leadership of the FAA now. As you know, we have a new director, and the leadership has sort of been ratified and confirmed in both houses, in the Republican Senate and the Democratic House, because of the unusual nature of the FAA. So I think we have good leadership now. I think gross mistakes were made and lives were lost because of decisions that were made, yes.
The new head of the FAA doesn't seem to be very happy with Boeing right now about not getting some of the communications that had been made available to criminal investigators, but not to the FAA with what they're doing right now. How concerned are you about that revelation?
And I'm not happy about that either. As a matter of fact, we've made no secret about that with Boeing, and I intend to begin with that during my 5 minutes of opening statements. I'm going to make that very, very clear. At this late date, to withhold anything, even if it's been given to another government agency, is hard to explain, and we're going to let Boeing address that. Right. I hope their response will be that it was a mistake, that they fully realize that it was a mistake, and that they will never ever do that again.
Is that enough?
Well, we'll see, but an acknowledgement that giving it to one agency and not giving it to the other is not sufficient will be helpful. You know, the main thing we need to know, we need to know, when this sort of major transformation takes place again, can we have a confidence level that these sorts of mistakes, these sorts of failures will not happen again? I think probably the MAX is going to be ready to fly fairly soon. But
Senator,
what about the next time there's an upgrade? Will the system fail as it did in this one?
Senator, one of the questions about the system failing was raised in an article over the weekend in the New York Times about some new laws and rules that were put in place around self-regulation. In fact, more and more of the regulatory burden for these aircraft are being taken on by the companies, in this case Boeing themselves, and lobbied for, by the way, these rules by Boeing. These were bipartisan laws, and they were signed by both sides at the time. But in retrospect, do you think that those were a mistake?
We're going to look at that for sure. Let me just make sure we understand those laws were not yet in place
100%,
when these accidents took place.
100%. But as we're trying now to look forward, and given that part of the argument looking back on why we even got into this situation is both the closeness, perhaps, of the relationship between Boeing and the FAA, and the fact that so much of that regulatory effort is being put on the aircraft maker itself already.
I can assure you and the listening public that we are going to delve deeply into that. We've been looking at it. We're going to talk about it very extensively at today's hearing, and today will not be the last day we look at that. It's a very good point. I don't think the law itself, which had not yet gone into place,
correct,
was the cause of either
I don't
of
want to
these,
suggest it was.
but the climate
I think there's a larger
asking
issue,
about.
exactly.
Yes, right.
Senator, Boeing itself thinks that it will have at least one regulatory body that will approve the 737 MAX to return to the airs by the end of this year. That's just about 2 months away. Does that sound like a time frame that you could answer all the questions that you have about what's going on before you actually see it brought back to the market?
I think it's within the realm of possibility. We don't know what the information will be. I know there have been some 800 tests with pilots from all over the world, pilots whose first language is not English, who have various levels of training. All of that has been done. Let me say, when it's ready for the first passenger flight, I want it to be a flight that I'd be happy to get on, and that the committee and the leadership in Washington are absolutely convinced is totally safe.
Senator, just very quickly, because you brought up the idea of less experienced pilots potentially having troubles with this, do you think that additional pilot training should be a requirement before, again, this can be brought back to the skies?
I think additional pilot training would have been a big help in this situation. You know, the first accident, the Lion accident, took place a year ago today. There was some 5 months in between, and we have a right to ask if the crew of the Ethiopian crash had been fully apprised and fully made aware of the gravity of the situation, would the second crash have taken place? So yes, these are very complicated aircraft, the most complex in the world, and these are human beings of various levels of expertise that are expected to fly them.
Senator, two quick questions. One more on the aircraft itself, which is, we've had Ralph Nader on this program several times since these crashes took place. He says the aircraft itself is fatally flawed, that no change in the MCAS system or anything else can actually fundamentally change the physics of the plane. What do you think of that assessment? Well,
I've spoken with Mr. Nader, and also he is a family member of one of the crash victims, and certainly has a point of view. I do not agree with Mr. Nader in that respect. I think this plane is eminently fixable. We need to make sure that it has been fixed before it's back with the traveling public. But I don't think it's a hopeless cause by any means. I understand that he has that point of view. I think it's frankly a view held by a very, very small minority of people.
And then, Senator, before we go, I did want to ask you about these impeachment hearings and how you intend to vote.
Well, I am not at all inclined to vote to remove President Trump from office. I do want to say that I look forward to a vote in the House of Representatives, and I've been calling on the House to do the impeachment as was done in the Nixon inquiry and the Clinton impeachment. And so, to the extent that there may be a resolution that will give us a comfort level taking place later on this week. I think it's a positive.
It's not a
step.
vote on a. It's not a vote on an inquiry, though. It's a vote on it. I don't know what it is. It's still not.
Well, you know, I haven't read the resolution.
It's still not
I
a
read
vote
the
on
announcement
resolution.
yesterday, and you make a valid point. We're going to
Still
see
not.
what the resolution is, and I hope it is in keeping with the precedents that were set during Nixon and Clinton.
But Senator, do you reserve any reservation in terms of wanting to learn more information about this situation before making a decision?
Well, absolutely. I'm going to listen to all of the information. But you asked me a pointed question, and the answer right now is that I really can't conceive of a situation based on what we know now, based on the facts that we know now, that would cause me to vote to convict and remove Donald Trump from office.
Senator Wicker, I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, coming up, the Fed kicking off a two-day meeting. What investors are expecting, we'll revisit that. We talked about it a little bit already. The futures at this hour indicated down 30, NASDAQ indicated down 25.5, much more on today's big hearing involving Boeing Senator Ted Cruz. Wow, I like that beard. Anyway, he'll be our guest when we return.
So, how are you feeling? On a scale of 1 to 5. 1 to 5? It's more like 5 million. There's everything from happy to extremely happy. There's also angry.
Really angry, Clive.
Actually, really angry.
Thank you.
But what if your business could understand what your customers are feeling and then do something about it? Turn problems into opportunities.
Thanks, Joan.
Customers into fanatics. Change the whole experience.
All right, who wants to go again?
I have a really good feeling about this.
We need a bond on this project. I asked Markham. You know what? Here's an idea. Let's ask Markham. That's good. I know. Now, lunch. Yeah, there's a couple
Ever wonder where the people with all the answers get all the answers? Ask Markham, accountants and advisors.
Let's go get lost so we can be found. We're on our way. Let's go get lost.
Jim?
Yeah, what's up, man?
You know this is our house, right?
Oh, no worries, it's cool. I'm wearing my Tommy Johns. I am totally comfortable.
When we founded Tommy John, Tom was obsessed with how to make underwear truly comfortable.
So we reimagined comfort through fabric, fit, and function.
We use soft, breathable, lightweight fabric with 4 times the stretch of your current underwear, stay-put waistbands that never dig and stretch where you need it. We made a women's line made with lightweight, breathable fabrics so there are no visible panty lines.
Go to TommyJohn.com right now to see all that Tommy John has to offer. Use the promo code on the screen to get 20% off your first order. And for every order, we'll ship it to your door for free. Plus, we offer a best pair guarantee. If you don't love your first pair, you'll get a full refund. Tommy John, no adjustment needed.
Seriously?
Seriously comfortable.
The research, you reap the rewards. Head on over to cnbc.com/select.
Boeing CEO facing the heat in D.C. The fate of the 737 MAX jets. What investors need to hear now. Squawk on the Street, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Earnings alert, quarterly results from General Motors, the numbers, instant market reaction, and the automaker CFO will join us live.
Under pressure, Boeing CEO will be grilled on Capitol Hill today. Senator Ted Cruz will be among the questioners, but first, he'll join us live.
Plus, our guest host for the hour, we're going to welcome legendary venture capitalist Ben